Welcome back to another episode of the Owl Talk podcast. This is Joe Palazzolo, and the theme of today's podcast is Alumni in Sports. Sigma Pi Fraternity has a great history of our alumni brothers being involved in all levels of athletic competition. Most of our listeners will know that we have alumni like Tony Romo from our Beta Gamma chapter at Eastern Illinois University, who had a great NFL career and is now the lead color analyst for NFL games on CBS. We also have Ken Zampese from Epsilon Chi chapter at the University of San Diego, who's currently with the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, we have a bunch of Sigma Pi alumni who work in and around the NFL and college football, probably enough to do a full episode of the podcast just focusing on the fraternity's legacy in football alone. We also have a bunch of alumni who've been successful at the Olympics, playing for Major League Baseball, working in different administrative positions in athletics. In fact, the fraternity's Outstanding Sportsmanship Award is named after Guy Red Mackey from Ada chapter at Purdue University. Some of our listeners may hear the name Mackey and think of the Mackey Arena at Purdue University. Well, that arena is named after one of our brothers. And of course, Mackey had a nearly 30-year career as the athletic director at Purdue, in addition to playing football and basketball for them. And he also ran track as an undergraduate. Today, however, we're going to talk about basketball. Sigma Pi fraternity alumni have coached basketball at the University of Vermont, University of Rochester, Mississippi State, and at a bunch of other colleges. In fact, for the last 8 seasons, the head coach of Pace University's men's basketball team has been Matt Healing, an alumnus from Delta Beta chapter at Monmouth University. Coach Healing is an award and championship winning coach. He was nominated for the NCAA D2 National Coach of the Year twice, in 2020 and in 2022. He coached his team to their first ever Northeast 10 Conference Championship in 2022, and also to back-to-back NCAA D2 tournament appearances in 2022 and 2023. Coach Healing is our guest on today's podcast. Welcome to Owl Talk, Matt.
Happy to be here, Joe. Thank you. It's always an honor to be on with you. And I've never been grouped in any capacity with Tony Romo before, so I will probably take that and run with it moving forward, but I appreciate it.
There you go. There you go. You know, it's interesting for me, Matt, because we're from the same chapter, and I joined Delta Beta chapter 1 year before you. So we were in school together, and I know a little bit about your background. However, for our listeners out there, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What'd you study in college? What brought you to Sigma Pi?
Well, not only did you and I go to college together at the Delta Beta chapter at Monmouth, we also grew up in towns next to each other, but didn't know each other. But grew up in Flanders, New Jersey, smallish town in Morris County, New Jersey. Loved it there. You know the area well, but grew up in that town, wound up going to private high school, Morris Catholic High School, where I played several sports. Had a dream of playing in college, just fell a little short of that. It wasn't quite up to par for that. Love the idea of going to Monmouth. I actually grew up, I grew up in Morris County. I had a summer house in Long Branch my whole life growing up, which was great, which is where Monmouth is located. So every summer we would go down there, and aunts, uncles, grandparents, we'd all go down there. So fell in love with the area. So it was a unique opportunity for me to go to school in state, great university, and already have a off-campus house, that I was able to stay in, which was great. So loved Monmouth, loved the experience. Met a lot of great friends right off the bat, freshman year. And then, ironically, maybe you remember, but you were the one that really, helped guide me into Sigma Pi. It seemed like you and I had connected. It seemed like you had such a positive experience at that point. And, Monmouth is a great school and a great university. But for me, I was just looking to expand my horizons and meet new people and the guys at Sigma Pi just seemed like a great group of guys. Got to know all of them, and was really happy and fortunate to attach myself to such an awesome brotherhood.
Yeah, whenever there's that hometown connection, I always try to cultivate that a little bit. When I was an undergrad with guys like you, and there were other guys from our general area of the state that I was working on recruiting, and I remember your class was a great class for us. You guys went on to become big leaders in the chapter and leaders on campus, and now you're all incredibly successful. By the way, I feel you on having wanted to compete at the collegiate level, but having it not work out. I got recruited to wrestle at a couple of different schools, and I got recruited to play football at a couple of different schools. Never quite had the build for it, and maybe not the determination for it. So I feel you, man. I feel you.
I still remember, I think, some of the old Roxbury High School football stories from yourself and John Van Brunt. So I remember what a decorated high school player you were.
Well, we could go off onto a tangent and talk about the 1998 state champions if you'd like. But
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'll do a whole podcast with me and Van Brunt sitting there with you telling us the story. We'll tell you the stories all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today's topic though is alumni in sports. So, how did you get into coaching basketball? What was the genesis of that desire in you? And maybe talk about some of your early jobs in that sport.
Yeah, sure. Well, went to Monmouth, studied communications, love that, was heavily involved in sports radio there on WMCX and just the campus in general. I would say probably towards the end of my time at Monmouth was when I really started to not only want a career in sports, but want a career in coaching. I spoke to the head coach at the time, Dave Calloway. He pointed me in the right direction just with some thoughts and pointers, and really appreciated his feedback at that time. But really, at the end of the day, didn't have, I guess, the guts to pull the trigger on that, right out of college. So wound up working in New York City for Clear Channel Radio. I worked for Clear Channel for about 18 months out of college. And yeah, something was just, continuing to pull me in that direction, being 23, 24 years old, doing the 9 to 5. Well, it's supposed to be 9 to 5, but 8 to 8 in Manhattan right out of college. And the pay was good, but certainly not something I was passionate about. So I remember actually, um, yeah, I was living in Secaucus with some friends at the time, including a couple fraternity brothers from Monmouth, and just they knew about that I was looking to do something different and didn't really know what path I wanted to go down. And ironically, I actually, and this was a big moment for me, but you know how when you're in high school, maybe you did this, maybe you didn't. But for us in high school, freshman year at Morris Catholic in New Jersey, my teacher at the time had us write a letter to our future selves about where we saw ourselves and where we wanted to be. And hey, you're 14 years old, you're a freshman in high school right now, but I will find you 10 years from now and I will mail this letter to you. So I don't know how this teacher at the time tracked me down 10 years later living in Secaucus, but I get this envelope and it's from my 14-year-old self 10 years later. And it was like, hey, I know, I don't know totally what you'll be doing 10 years from now, Matt, but you'll be coaching basketball. I know that's your passion. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, if this isn't an indication that I need to, follow that path, no matter how hard it is, no matter, what the challenges are without, being a college athlete or having, a family member in that profession, then, I just got to go for it. So I really did. I wound up leaving Clear Channel Radio and a full-time job and started coaching part-time basketball in Jersey. I started out at Randolph High School. I worked there for 2 years as, I know, big rivalry, as an assistant basketball coach there for their varsity boys team. After 2 years of coaching at Randolph High School, I moved into the college ranks, started in Division III. I coached at Centenary College in Hackettstown, New Jersey, and coached for 2 years at Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. Two great experiences. Division III is really a great way to learn a lot about the coaching profession. It's a lot of small time operation. You're doing multiple duties at once. So I feel like I had a great learning experience at those institutions, a great learning curve where I was able to not only learn about coaching, but learn about college athletics in a really immersive experience right off the bat. And then after After some time in Division 3, made my way to NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Division 1 school in Newark. We had a lot of success there, which was great. Worked for a great head coach in Jim Engels, who is now the head coach at Columbia. He's been there for some time. So yeah, I mean, just paying dues and learning my craft, and after working at several institutions, found my way to Pace through a couple different connections I had. Started out as an assistant coach here, and was really fortunate and blessed to be promoted to head coach in 2015.
It's an amazing backstory. I love the fact that the letter you wrote when you were younger came back and found you.
I have no idea. So that teacher, Mr. Tripp, somehow he found me. He only coached at, or excuse me, he only taught at Morris Catholic for that year. But he found me. I wound up friending him on Facebook once I got the letter and thanked him. And somehow he was able to track not only myself, but a bunch of my other classmates down to send those letters out. But I don't know if anybody else's was impactful as it was for me, but that really was kind of a moment for me, just to put my foot in the ground and make a career change.
Love that. Love that. It's a great background, Matt. Everything sounds awesome except for the time at Randolph, which we'll talk about another time.
Yes,
For our listeners, the high school I went to is a crosstown rival with Randolph, so I have to put a little poke in there.
big
So
rival.
big rival. We beat them all the time. So if you could, I would love to learn more about the mentoring portion of your work. Folks often think about coaches, folks in your position, and they think about X's and think about O's and making adjustments on the fly. And how do you coach a team to a tournament appearance and championships and all that stuff? But I want you to bring us to the other side of coaching. Tell us about being a mentor to these young men on the basketball team.
That's really what it's all about, is that bond, that brotherhood, very similar to the brotherhood that you have in a fraternity. I had a lot of great mentors growing up, teachers, coaches at the scholastic level, high school level, even in college, whether it was professors or advisors or, somebody like Doc Mosca. We had a lot of great people guiding me along the way. And I'm so fortunate to be able to do that now for a lot of young adults. It's such a pivotal age, that 18 to 22, 23-year-old range. I know that was a very pivotal time for me where you're kind of finding yourself. And, we take a lot of pride in making, you know, um, people better men here. And getting people to buy into something bigger than themselves, I think, is so important. Um, for us here at Pace, like we weren't a great team when I had taken over the program. We were 5-23 the year before I took over. So we had a large uphill climb to where we are now. And I thought that, a big part of the reason why we were struggling at the time here was we just didn't have the right culture, the right connection. Players didn't, maybe a little too selfish. And, so we've really put family first here. And that's really what we pride ourselves on, is being a very tight-knit family. So, myself, my other coaches here, the players on our team, we are, bonded as brothers and as family, not just for their time here, but, forever. I'm still to this day mentoring players on jobs to take and different opportunities, and whether that's playing professionally after college and where they might want to do that, or hey, I have these couple different job opportunities, or hey, can you look over my resume, coach, and tell me what you're seeing or what you're thinking, or hey, I'm having an issue with my girlfriend, or whatever it might be. We're always trying to guide these young men. And at the end of the day, winning games is great and having success as a team is great. But the ultimate success that we have is the bonds that we have and the connection that we have with each other. So, and again, I feel the same way, for my time in the fraternity, bonds that you build with guys that you go through things with, and, go through good times and bad times and ups and downs during college. And I think it makes that's what makes being in a fraternity so unique, is that experience.
I agree. In fact, I couldn't agree more. It's one of the reasons why I immediately began volunteering after I graduated from Monmouth, because of that mentoring relationship. I wanted to make sure that we had it here at Delta Beta chapter and that we had it for a long period of time. So I've been doing that for 20 plus years now, and I appreciate when you talk about how you're advising your players not just while they're on the team, but even after they graduate, and helping them with things like their professional life and their personal life. I mean, that's really the sign of a strong mentor. So good for you for taking on that role and really helping these young men in their full lives, not just their athletic lives.
Yeah,
So you're
it's such a, again, I know I said it's a pivotal time, but it really is. This is the moment where you're gonna, determine your future. And sometimes you can put a lot of pressure on yourself. And um, a lot of these kids have great intentions. They just need a little guidance and a little mentorship, and they're on their way.
That's it. That's it. They just sometimes need someone to say, "You're doing the right thing. Keep it up. Keep it up."
Exactly.
You are on the podcast today because you're a head coach, and you're on the podcast today because you're a Sigma Pi brother. So you've begun to talk a little bit about this, but can you talk to our listeners about the connection between those two worlds? In what ways does being a brother of an organization like Sigma Pi Fraternity help inform your work as a head basketball coach?
I think it's massively connected, the two groups. I didn't play a college sport, even though we were involved in athletics quite a bit, during our college time. But, it was really being a part of a massive brotherhood. I mean, that's a lot. I didn't even grow up with brothers. I had a sister, but being in a large group of young men, again in that college time, I thought was it allowed me to be a team player. It allowed me to help other people. And again, I talk a lot about my team now and my program now, just about putting team and program first and, being a part of something bigger than yourself. I mean, that's what being in a fraternity is all about too, is community service and, doing what's best for a collective group as opposed to, just yourself at time. You're thinking of a larger contingent than just yourself. Um, so again, I love that part of being in a fraternity. The bonds that I have and have had with the brotherhood there are still strong to this day, just like, they're strong with, the college athletics and basketball ties that, I make every year too. A lot of the people that I talk to on a daily basis are either involved in relationships I've cultivated from the world of athletics or people that I keep in touch with from college that I, bonded with in that way. So they're certainly connected. I definitely feel like I, I've been a better coach and have been a a really good team player in the world of athletics from my time being in the fraternity and learning how to share that experience with so many other people.
I would actually argue that your coaching career began when you were an undergraduate, coaching the chapter's Greek Week teams to many victories.
And I didn't want to boast too much because the NCAA tournaments are great, but back-to-back Greek Week championships, it probably goes hand in hand with the NCAA tournaments. So uh, I probably have just as fond of memories of those as I do those tournaments. So
How could you not? How could you not?
I don't know. Right.
Let's talk about the future. What does this upcoming season look like for your team? Is there anything in particular that you're going to focus on this season? And then talk a little bit about yourself personally. Are there any areas of your coaching that you're looking to improve on or advance this season? So give our listeners a heads up on the future.
Again, we've had a lot of success here these last few years. We have turned over our team quite a bit. We've lost some really good players, so I'm excited about the new players that we have coming in. But it'll be a period of transition for us as a basketball team. But I think, again, especially in the world of college athletics and probably in life in general nowadays, the way the world is, it's hard to set, 5, 10 year plans. Like we kind of just take things as they come. Um, so we're just trying to get better. We're trying to get better every day. We're trying to get better every month and year. And, that's really what our goal is here is just to get our players better than they were last year and keep improving day in and day out. Like we've really adopted that mentality of just, just trying to get a little bit better every single day. So, as players, as people, we really pride ourselves on that. I'm really happy with the program and where we are. Blessed to be a husband and a father, and when you're younger, in addition to the professional goals you have, probably the goals, a lot of the goals you have are to, you know, uh, be successful in different ways, but raise a family and be a good spouse and all of those things. So, I'm happy my family's happy. I'm happy that, they really cherish the experience that we have here at Pace and, experience of having a father that's a college basketball coach that's so meaningful to me is having children that can come out and see the games. And it's kind of like a tricky age now too, because at first they were just so happy to come to the games, and now when we lose a game, they're on the ground crying. And it's but that's all part of it. Like I love how invested they are, and it's such a cool feeling. And try and make them proud, of course.
You're setting a great example, not just for your players, but for your kids too. Do you have any parting comments for our listeners? Anything you want to leave them with before we wrap up?
Again, I just want to reiterate, what a positive experience. And even for you and I, just the connection that we have, and communication that we have, and being able to hop on this podcast. Like, this is great and all. But you and I would do this over the phone, just catching up. So I know when we talked about doing the podcast, like, and I do some of these, and obviously you have other people, but this is so informal to me, and it's just two, brothers from a chapter, that are just, winging it and talking and reminiscing. And some of the stories will make the air, and some of them won't, and that's all great. But that's what being brothers are all about. That's what Sigma Pi is all about. I know, I have friends that are fraternity members and other fraternities at other universities, and sometimes they remark on the bond that we have, from our Delta Beta chapter, in terms of that, close-knit group. So just blessed to be a part of it, thankful to be a part of it. Looking back on it 20 plus years now, definitely thankful that you came into Cedar Hall and found the G Suite, and got a few guys like myself and Don Katie and Chris Lastre, and got us into the Sigma Pi mix, because we're all happy to be a part of it.
And I'm glad that you all took the invitation and joined us. We're better for it. Thank
Yes.
you, Coach Healing. Thank you for being a guest on Owl Talk. And thank you to everyone who listened to today's episode about alumni in sports. For the latest on what's going on in the world of Sigma Pi fraternity, follow us across social media. We are at Sigma Pi, all one word, on all the major platforms like Instagram, X, and Facebook. On YouTube, we are at Sigma Pi Fraternity, all one word. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you back for the next Owl Talk podcast.